The discovery. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Galactic Empire scout ship Celestial Whisper. Captain Zara Voss, a seasoned Arcturian with iridescent scales and piercing silver eyes, stood at the helm, her 4 arms deftly manipulating the ship's controls. The ship had been patrolling the outer reaches of the Orion Arm for months, a routine mission to chart unexplored systems and search for potential colony worlds. Another day, another empty sector. First Officer Krull muttered, his tentacles writhing with boredom. The molluscan officer had been hoping for some excitement on this mission, but so far it had been nothing but endless scans of barren rocks and gas giants. Zara was about to reprimand her second-in-command for his lack of enthusiasm when a shrill alarm cut through the ambient hum of the ship's systems. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow. "Report," Zara barked, her scales shimmering with sudden alertness. The science officer, a crystalline being named Ix, chimed in with a voice like tinkling glass. "Captain, we're detecting anomalous energy signatures from the 3rd planet of the star system ahead." "Impossible," Zara breathed. "This sector was quarantined millennia ago. There shouldn't be anything out here but dead worlds." But the readings didn't lie. As the Celestial Whisper approached the system, the sensors painted a picture that defied all logic. The 3rd planet, a blue-green marble suspended in the void, was alive with activity. Artificial satellites swarmed around it like insects, and the energy output suggested a civilization far beyond what should have been possible for an undiscovered world. "Magnify," Zara ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. The main view screen flickered to life, zooming in on the impossible world. Sprawling cities covered entire continents, their gleaming spires reaching for the stars. Massive structures orbited the planet, some easily rivaling the size of small moons, and darting between them all were ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships, their designs unlike anything in the Imperial database. "By the Emperor's crown," Krull gasped. "What are we looking at?" Zara's mind raced. This was beyond any first contact scenario she had been trained for. This wasn't some primitive race taking its first steps into space. This was a fully fledged, highly advanced civilization that had somehow escaped the Empire's notice for who knows how long. "Ix, any matches in the historical archives?" Zara asked, grasping at straws. The science officer's crystalline form pulsed with light as it processed the request. "Negative, Captain. However, there is a 97.3% match to theoretical reconstructions of Earth." The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. Earth, the mythical homeworld of humanity, a species long thought extinct. Stories of their incredible adaptability and tenacity were still told throughout the Empire. Cautionary tales of a race that had burned bright and fierce before being snuffed out by their own hubris, or so everyone had thought. "This can't be," Krull said, shaking his head in disbelief. "Humans died out eons ago." Clearly, the Great Plague didn't finish the job. Zara cut him off. She stared at the screen, watching the buzz of activity around the planet. A civilization that had not only survived but thrived in isolation. The implications were staggering. "Captain," Ix chimed in again, "I'm detecting some form of quantum camouflage field collapsing around the system. It appears we've triggered some kind of alert by our presence." Zara's scales bristled. Quantum camouflage on a stellar scale. Such technology was thought to be purely theoretical, yet here was evidence of its application, and on a scale that boggled the mind. "They've been hiding," she realized aloud. "All this time, they've been here, advancing, preparing." "Preparing for what?" Krull asked, a note of fear creeping into his voice. Before Zara could answer, the view screen lit up with a new alert. A transmission aimed directly at the Celestial Whisper. "They're hailing us," Ix reported, surprise evident in its chiming tones. Zara straightened her uniform, acutely aware that she was about to make history. First contact with a lost civilization, one that by all rights shouldn't exist. The fate of the Empire itself might hinge on what happened next. "Open a channel," she commanded, steeling herself for whatever came next. "And send a priority alert to Imperial High Command. I have a feeling they're going to want to hear about this." As the transmission began to resolve on the screen, Zora couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy as she knew it was about to change forever. The lost children of Earth had been found, and they were no longer lost. They were waiting. The view screen flickered, and a face appeared. Unmistakably human, yet somehow more. The woman who gazed back at them had skin the color of rich earth, eyes that seemed to hold the depths of space, and silver hair that floated around her head as if alive. "Greetings, visitors," the woman said, her voice resonating with a warmth and authority that took Zora aback. "I am Admiral Zephyr Starborn of the Terran Collective. We've been expecting you." Zora blinked, momentarily at a loss for words. They had been expecting them. How was that possible? Gathering her wits, she responded, "I am Captain Zara Voss of the Galactic Empire scout ship Celestial Whisper. We had no idea your civilization existed. How is this possible?" Admiral Starborn's lips curved into a smile that held secrets of ages. "Captain Voss, the story of our survival and flourishing is a long and complex one. Perhaps it would be best if you and your crew joined us planetside. We have much to discuss, and I believe the Empire will want to hear what we have to say." Zora exchanged glances with Krell and Ix. This was far beyond standard protocol. But then again, nothing about this situation was standard. "We would be honored, Admiral," Zora replied, making a decision that she knew would alter the course of galactic history. "Please provide us with landing coordinates." As the Celestial Whisper began its descent towards Earth, guided by unseen forces that cradled the ship with impossible precision, Zora couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The humans had not only survived, but had advanced to levels that defied imagination. What other secrets did they hold? And what did their emergence mean for the future of the galaxy? The ship touched down in a vast plaza surrounded by towering structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As Zara and her crew disembarked, they were greeted by a sight that took their breath away. Hovering vehicles zipped between buildings, holographic displays filled the air with information and art, and beings that could only be described as post-human moved with fluid grace among the crowds. Admiral Starborn approached, flanked by a diverse group of individuals. Some appeared fully human, others were clearly augmented, and a few seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. "Welcome to New Terra," the Admiral said, spreading her arms wide. "The cradle of reborn humanity and the frontier of what's possible when a species refuses to accept extinction." Zara found her voice at last. "Admiral Starborn, I speak for the entire Galactic Empire when I say that we are astounded. Your achievements, your very existence, it challenges everything we thought we knew about the universe and its history." The Admiral's expression turned solemn. "Captain Voss, we've hidden ourselves away for good reason. The galaxy is changing, and dangers are stirring that threaten not just humanity, not just the Empire, but all sentient life. We've spent millennia preparing, advancing, pushing the boundaries of science and consciousness itself." She gestured to the marvels around them. "What you see here is but a fraction of what we've achieved. We've mastered technologies your empire has only dreamed of. Time dilation, consciousness transfer, matter manipulation on a quantum scale. We've explored realities beyond this universe and communed with beings that defy categorization." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why to us?" Admiral Starborn's eyes seemed to look past Zara, into the depths of space and time. "Because the threat we've prepared for is finally emerging. The Void Devourers, ancient beings of unimaginable power, are awakening. Your empire, vast as it is, stands no chance against them. But together, your resources and our technology, we might just have a fighting chance." As if on cue, a massive holographic display sprang to life above the plaza. It showed a galactic map, with tendrils of darkness creeping in from the edges, consuming everything in their path. "This is what's coming, Captain Voss," Admiral Starborn said, her voice grave, "and humanity stands ready to join the fight. The question is, will the Empire stand with us?" Zara looked at the map, then back at the wonders of human achievement surrounding her. In that moment, she knew that her next words would shape the destiny of countless worlds. "Admiral Starborn," she said, drawing herself up to her full height, "I believe it's time we introduced you to the Emperor. The galaxy as we know it is about to change, and I have a feeling humanity will be leading the charge." As the two leaders shook hands, scales meeting augmented flesh, a new chapter in galactic history began to unfold. The lost children of Earth had returned, and with them came the promise of salvation, or the seeds of an even greater cataclysm. The revelation. The Imperial delegation arrived on Earth with all the pomp and circumstance befitting such a momentous occasion. The massive dreadnought, pride of Arcturus, hung in low orbit like a metallic moon, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. Smaller ships ferried diplomats, scientists, and military officials to the surface, where they were greeted by a sea of curious human faces. Dr. Lyra Vex, the Empire's foremost xenoanthropologist, felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation as her shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. After Captain Voss's startling discovery, the Empire had scrambled to assemble a top-tier diplomatic team. Dr. Vex had been personally selected by the Emperor to lead the scientific contingent. As the shuttle broke through the cloud cover, Lyra's breath caught in her throat. The sprawling metropolis below defied all expectations. Gleaming spires of impossible heights reached for the sky, their surfaces shimmering with what appeared to be living metal. Vehicles of sleek, organic designs flitted between the buildings, following invisible paths in perfect harmony. "By the cosmic forge," whispered her assistant, Zen, his multiple eyes wide with awe. "This is no primitive survivor colony." Lyra nodded, her tendrils curling with barely contained excitement. "We may need to reevaluate our entire approach, Zen. These humans are far more advanced than we anticipated." The shuttle touched down on a landing pad that seemed to materialize out of thin air. As the doors opened, Lyra was struck by the crisp, clean air, a far cry from the polluted atmosphere she had expected of a highly industrialized world. Admiral Zephyr Starborn approached, flanked by a diverse group of humans and post-humans. "Welcome to New Terra, Dr. Vex," she said, her voice carrying clearly despite the lack of any visible translation device. "We've been looking forward to this exchange of knowledge." Lyra bowed slightly, her tendrils forming the imperial gesture of greeting. "Admiral Starborn, the honor is ours. Your civilization. It's beyond anything we could have imagined." Zephyr smiled, a gesture Lyra recognized from her studies of human physiology. "Necessity, as we say, is the mother of invention. Please, follow me. There is much to discuss." As they walked, Lyra couldn't help but pepper Zephyr with questions. "Your civilization, how did you achieve such advancements in isolation? Our records suggested this sector had been decimated." Zephyr's expression turned somber. "The Great Plague, as you call it, was a near-extinction event for us. But it also became the catalyst for our greatest leaps forward." They entered a vast circular chamber that Lyra realized was a 360-degree holographic projection room. With a wave of Zephyr's hand, they were suddenly standing in the midst of a three-dimensional timeline of human history. After the plague, our survivors united with a single purpose: to ensure humanity would never again face extinction. Zephyr explained. Images flashed around them. Scientists working tirelessly, massive terraforming projects on Mars and Venus, the construction of Dyson swarms around the sun. Lyra's mind reeled. This level of advancement, it should have taken millennia. Zephyr's eyes twinkled. "Linear time, Dr. Vex, is a constraint we've learned to work around. Our quantum physicists discovered ways to, let's say, borrow time from other realities." Zen, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. Impossible. Manipulating the time stream would require energy on a cosmic scale. Precisely, Zephyr nodded. Hence our Dyson swarms. But that's just the beginning. Allow me to show you something truly revolutionary. With another gesture, the holographic display shifted. They were suddenly standing in what appeared to be a massive factory, but unlike any Lyra had ever seen. Machines moved with fluid, almost organic motions, assembling complex devices at an astonishing rate. "This is our matter synthesis facility," Zephyr explained. "Using principles of quantum entanglement, we can reorganize matter at its most fundamental level. Need a starship? We can grow one from raw elements in a matter of hours." Lyra felt her worldview crumbling around her. Everything she thought she knew about technological progression, about the limits of science, was being upended. "Dr. Starborn," she said slowly, "I must ask, given your clear technological superiority, why reveal yourselves now? Surely you must have detected our presence in the galaxy long ago." Zephyr's expression grew serious. "Because, Dr. Vex, we've detected something entering our galaxy. Something ancient, vast, and hungry. Something that your empire, for all its might, is woefully unprepared to face." The holographic display shifted once more, showing a dark mass at the edge of the galaxy, slowly but inexorably advancing. "We've hidden ourselves not out of fear," Zephyr continued, "but to prepare. And now we believe it's time for humanity to rejoin the galactic community. Not as subjects, but as equals, perhaps even as saviors." Lyra stared at the ominous image, her scientific mind already racing with the implications. She had come expecting to study a lost civilization. Instead, she found herself standing at the precipice of a new era for the entire galaxy. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice filled with determination. "The Empire needs to know what we're facing." Zephyr nodded gravely. "Then let us begin. The fate of all species may well depend on what happens next." Over the next several hours, Zephyr and her team of scientists unveiled a history of human advancement that left the Imperial delegation stunned. They learned of the quantum leap in human evolution, driven by a combination of genetic engineering, cybernetic augmentation, and consciousness digitization. "We call ourselves Homo Novus now," explained Dr. Aria Chen, a biotechnology specialist whose body seemed to shimmer between solid and ethereal states. "We've transcended the limitations of our original biology, merging with our creations to become something more." Lyra watched in fascination as Dr. Chen demonstrated their ability to manipulate matter at will, transforming a simple block of metal into complex machinery and back again with mere thought. "But how do you maintain individuality?" Zen asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his initial shock. "With such power, wouldn't there be a temptation to merge into a singular consciousness?" Dr. Chen smiled. "An excellent question. We found that our individuality, our unique perspectives, are our greatest strength. We maintain a collective network, yes, but each of us remains a distinct entity. Unity in diversity, as the old saying goes." As the presentation continued, Lyra's mind struggled to process the implications of each new revelation. Faster than light travel achieved through localized space-time manipulation. Energy generation that tapped into the fundamental forces of the universe. Artificial intelligences so advanced they were indistinguishable from organic minds. And yet, Lyra mused aloud, with all this power, you chose to remain hidden. Why? Admiral Starborn stepped forward, her expression grave. Because, Dr. Vex, we remembered our history. Humanity's first steps into space were marked by conflict, by a desire to conquer and colonize. We wanted to be sure we had truly evolved beyond those impulses before we revealed ourselves to the galaxy at large. The holographic display shifted again, showing the dark mass at the galaxy's edge. But now we face a threat that demands unity. The Void Devourers, as we call them, are unlike anything your empire has encountered. Images flashed before them. Entire star systems going dark, planets being consumed, space itself seeming to warp and twist. They're not just a physical threat, Zephyr explained. They consume information, knowledge, even the very laws of physics in the regions they devour. And they're heading straight for the heart of the galaxy. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. How do we stop them? For the first time since their arrival, Zephyr's confident demeanor faltered. We don't know. Not yet. But we believe that by combining humanity's unique approach to science and technology with the vast resources of the Galactic Empire, we might stand a chance. Lyra looked around at her fellow delegates, seeing a mixture of fear, awe, and determination on their faces. She knew that the report they would send back to the Empire would change everything. The galaxy was no longer as they knew it. Humanity, long thought extinct, had returned, more powerful than ever and bearing warnings of an unimaginable threat. Admiral Starborn, Lyra said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. On behalf of the Galactic Empire, I believe it's time we discuss the terms of an alliance. The challenges ahead are greater than any one species can face alone. Zephyr smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. I was hoping you'd say that, Dr. Vex. Come, let me show you what humanity dreams of for the future of the galaxy. It's time you saw the full scope of our vision. As they walked towards a shimmering portal that hadn't been there moments before, Lyra realized that the true journey of discovery was only just beginning. The lost children of Earth had not only survived, they had thrived, evolved, and now stood ready to reshape the very fabric of galactic civilization. The fate of countless worlds now hung in the balance, and at the center of it all stood humanity, no longer lost, no longer hiding, but poised to lead the charge against the darkness that threatened to engulf them all. The challenge. The news of humanity's survival and advancement sent shockwaves through the Galactic Empire. Emperor Zaxel, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate exoskeleton, called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. The grand chamber of the Imperial Palace on Arcturus Prime was filled to capacity, with holographic projections of distant dignitaries filling any remaining space. Dr. Lyra Vex stood before the assembly, her tendrils quivering with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had spent the past week on Earth, immersing herself in the wonders of human civilization, and now it fell to her to convey the magnitude of what she had witnessed. Esteemed members of the Council, she began, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics, what we have discovered on Earth defies all our previous understanding of technological progression and species evolution. With a gesture, she activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Images of Earth's cities, their advanced technology, and the humans themselves flashed before the astounded audience. Humanity has not merely survived the Great Plague, Lyra continued. They have transcended it, evolving into a species that blurs the line between organic and synthetic life. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Emperor Zaxel leaned forward, his energy form pulsing with interest. And you believe their claims of this cosmic threat? Lyra nodded solemnly. The evidence they presented is compelling, Your Majesty. The Void Devourers, as they call them, pose a threat unlike anything our empire has faced. She brought up the image of the dark mass encroaching on the galaxy's edge. This entity doesn't just consume matter and energy. It devours information, alters the laws of physics, and leaves nothing but emptiness in its wake. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, each counselor trying to make themselves heard. Fear, skepticism, and outrage mingled in the air. Silence. Emperor Zaxel's voice boomed, instantly quieting the assembly. He turned his attention back to Lyra. Dr. Vex, what do these humans propose? Lyra took a deep breath. They offer an alliance, Your Majesty. They believe that by combining their advanced technology with our empire's vast resources, we might stand a chance against this threat. An alliance? Scoffed High Admiral Krovac, his scales bristling. With a species that has hidden from us for millennia. How can we trust them? Indeed, added Counselor Ixa, her crystalline form shimmering with doubt. For all we know, this threat could be a fabrication, a ploy to infiltrate our empire. Lyra had anticipated this resistance. Counselors, I understand your skepticism, but I assure you, what I've seen on Earth is very real. Their technological capabilities far surpass our own. If they wanted to conquer us, they could have done so already. She paused, letting her words sink in. Moreover, they've provided us with technology as a gesture of good faith. Quantum communication devices that allow instantaneous communication across any distance. Energy generators that tap into the fundamental forces of the universe. These alone could revolutionize our empire. Emperor Zaxel's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. And what do they ask in return? Cooperation, Your Majesty, Lyra replied. They seek to establish joint research facilities, to combine our knowledge and resources. They believe that together, we can develop the means to combat the Void Devourers. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, his energy form flickering as he processed the information. Finally, he spoke. This is a matter that requires careful consideration. We will need to verify their claims and assess the potential risks and benefits of such an alliance. He turned to High Admiral Krovac. Assemble a task force. I want our best scientists and strategists working alongside these humans. If this threat is real, we must be prepared. Krovac bowed, though Lyra could see the reluctance in his posture. As you command, Your Majesty. As the council session adjourned, Lyra felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The Empire was taking the threat seriously, but she could sense the undercurrent of fear and suspicion. Building trust between humanity and the Empire would be a monumental task. Weeks passed, and the Joint Human-Imperial Research Initiative began in earnest. On a space station orbiting Jupiter, scientists from both civilizations worked tirelessly to understand the nature of the Void Devourers and develop countermeasures. Dr. Aria Chen, the human biotechnology specialist, stood before a holographic representation of the entity's energy signature. Her form shimmered as she interfaced directly with the station's systems, manipulating the display with thought alone. The entity's ability to alter local physics is unlike anything we've encountered, she explained to the assembled team. It's as if it's rewriting the very code of reality. High Admiral Krovac, who had been assigned to oversee the Imperial side of the project, frowned. And how do you propose we fight something that can change the rules of engagement at will? Dr. Chen's form solidified as she turned to address the Admiral. By changing the rules ourselves, Admiral. We've been working on a technology we call reality anchors, devices that can maintain a bubble of stable space-time, even in the presence of the entity. She gestured, and a new hologram appeared, a complex device that pulsed with energy. This is just a prototype, but with the Empire's resources, we believe we can scale it up to protect entire star systems. Krovac's eyes narrowed. And we're simply supposed to trust that this technology won't be used against us. The tension in the room was palpable. Dr. Lyra Vex, who had been observing the exchange, stepped forward. Admiral, I understand your concerns, but we verified the principles behind this technology. It's real, and it could be our best hope. Krovac was about to respond when alarms blared throughout the station. A frantic voice came over the comm system. Emergency. We're detecting a spatial anomaly in the Proxima Centauri system. It matches the energy signature of the Void Devourers. The room erupted into action. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing a dark, writhing mass emerging from the depths of space near Earth's closest stellar neighbor. It's here, Dr. Chen whispered, her form flickering with shock. We're out of time. High Admiral Krovac's military training kicked in. Battle stations. I want every available ship in the sector mobilized immediately. As the Imperial officers rushed to carry out his orders, Dr. Chen turned to Lyra. We need to deploy the reality anchor prototype. It's not ready for full-scale use, but it might buy us some time. Lyra nodded, her tendrils writhing with determination. Do it. I'll inform the Emperor and request full cooperation from the Imperial fleet. As they raced to prepare their defenses, Lyra couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The threat they had feared was no longer a distant possibility. It was here, at their doorstep. The true test of the human Imperial alliance was about to begin. In the following hours, chaos reigned. The combined fleets of humanity and the Empire converged on the Proxima Centauri system. Ships of designs never before seen together filled the space around the beleaguered star. Aboard the Imperial flagship, the Eternal Flame, High Admiral Krovac coordinated the defense. Holographic displays showed the movements of thousands of ships, forming a protective barrier around the system. "Status report," he barked. An officer responded, her voice tight with tension. "The entity has consumed the outer planets, sir. It's advancing on Proxima. Our weapons seem to have no effect." Krovac growled in frustration. "Where are those reality anchors? We need them deployed now." As if in answer, a fleet of sleek human ships emerged from hyperspace. At their center was a massive vessel unlike anything the Imperial forces had seen before. It pulsed with energy, distorting the very fabric of space around it. Admiral Zephyr Starborn's voice came over the comm. "This is the Reality Forge. We're preparing to deploy the anchors. All ships, maintain your positions and prepare for possible space-time distortions." The massive human ship began to glow, energy building to impossible levels. Suddenly, beams of pure white light shot out, striking key points around the system. Where they hit, the fabric of space itself seemed to stabilize, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. For a moment, hope surged through the combined fleet. The Void Devourer's advance slowed, its tendrils of darkness recoiling from the areas protected by the reality anchors. But the victory was short-lived. The entity, as if sensing the threat, changed tactics. Instead of a direct assault, it began to warp the space between the anchors, creating pockets of altered physics that threatened to tear the fleet apart. "Our ships can't maintain formation," an Imperial officer shouted. "The spatial distortions are too severe." High Admiral Krovac watched in horror as ships from both fleets began to break apart, unable to withstand the stress of the shifting reality around them. In the midst of the chaos, a new transmission cut through the noise. It was Dr. Aria Chen, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "Admiral Starborn, Admiral Krovac, we've made a discovery," she said urgently. "The entity isn't just consuming, it's adapting. It's learning from every attack we make, every defense we put up. We need a new approach, something it can't predict or counter." Krovac's mind raced. Everything they had tried, all their advanced technology and strategic planning, seemed useless in the face of this unfathomable threat. For the first time in his long military career, he felt truly out of his depth. But then, a memory stirred. Something Dr. Vex had said during her presentation to the Imperial Council. "Unity in diversity," he murmured. "What was that?" "Admiral." Zephyr's voice crackled over the comm. Krovac's eyes widened as the idea took shape. Unity in diversity. That's it. We've been trying to fight this thing with brute force and predictable strategies. But what if we hit it with everything we've got, all at once? Not just our weapons, but every bit of diverse technology and knowledge our civilizations have developed. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Zephyr's voice returned, filled with newfound energy. "Admiral Krovac, I think you might be onto something. Dr. Chen, can we reconfigure the reality anchors to channel different forms of energy and information?" "Theoretically, yes," Chen replied, her voice thoughtful. "We could create a cascading effect of constantly changing reality states. If the entity truly adapts to what it consumes, we might be able to overload it, or at least confuse it long enough to push it back." Krovac nodded, a plan forming in his mind. "All ships, this is High Admiral Krovac. Prepare for a coordinated assault unlike anything we've attempted before. We're going to throw everything we have at this abomination. Energy weapons, exotic matter, information bursts, even conflicting laws of physics. Let's show this entity the true power of our combined civilizations. As the orders went out, a sense of desperate determination swept through the fleet. Imperial ships and human vessels moved in concert, forming intricate patterns that defied conventional space combat tactics. The reality forge began to pulse with even greater energy, its beams splitting into a rainbow of colors, each representing a different aspect of reality being channeled against the void devourer. As the combined might of humanity and the Empire prepared to make its stand, Krovac allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Whatever the outcome, they would face this threat together. The greatest challenge in galactic history was upon them, and the fate of all known civilization hung in the balance. The battle for Proxima Centauri, and perhaps the entire galaxy, was about to begin in earnest. The preparation, the aftermath of the battle at Proxima Centauri left both humanity and the Galactic Empire shaken. While they had managed to push back the Void Devourer, the victory had come at a great cost. Thousands of ships lay in ruins, entire fleets reduced to scattered debris, floating in the eerie calm of space. On the imperial capital world of Arcturus Prime, Emperor Zaxel convened an emergency session of the High Council. The Grand Chamber, usually a place of measured debate and political maneuvering, now thrummed with an air of urgency and barely contained fear. The threat is real. The Emperor's energy form pulsed as he addressed the assembly, and it is greater than anything our empire has faced in its long history. We must put aside our differences and work with the humans if we are to have any hope of survival. High Admiral Krovac, still bearing the scars of the recent battle, stepped forward. Your Majesty, honored counselors, I've seen firsthand what we're up against. The humans' technology, combined with our resources, gave us a fighting chance, but it won't be enough for the battles to come. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The fear that had initially greeted the humans' warnings had been replaced by a grim determination. What do you propose, Admiral? Asked Counselor Ixa, her crystalline form shimmering with concern. Krovac's eyes swept the room. Total mobilization. Every shipyard, every research facility, every able-bodied citizen of the Empire must be dedicated to this fight. And he paused, knowing his next words would be controversial. We must fully integrate our forces with the humans. No more separate chains of command. No more holding back technological secrets. It's time for true unity. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some in support, others in vehement opposition. Emperor Zaxel raised a hand, instantly silencing the assembly. Admiral Krovac speaks wisely, the Emperor said. We stand at the precipice of annihilation. Old prejudices and fears have no place in this fight. Let it be done. As the council session adjourned, plans were already being set in motion. Across the vast expanse of the Empire, the machinery of war began to churn at a fever pitch. On Earth, a similar transformation was taking place. The hidden factories and research labs that had long been the secret pride of humanity were now revealed in all their glory. Admiral Zephyr Starborn stood in the control center of the Lunar Forge, a massive complex built into the dark side of the moon, overseeing the integration of Imperial and human technologies. Status report, she called out, her eyes scanning the myriad holographic displays that filled the air around her. Dr. Aria Chen, her form shimmering as she interfaced directly with the Forge's systems, responded. The first batch of hybrid ships is nearing completion, Admiral. Imperial hulls with our reality warping drives. They're unlike anything either of our civilizations has fielded before. Zephyr nodded, a grim smile on her face. Good. How are we progressing with the Reality Anchor Network? We've managed to miniaturize the technology, Aria replied, bringing up a new display. We're now able to equip individual ships with localized reality stabilizers. It should give our fleet a fighting chance in the chaotic environments the Void Devourers create. As they spoke, a new presence materialized in the control center. High Admiral Krovac, accompanied by Dr. Lyra Vex, stepped through a shimmering portal. Impressive, Krovac said, his eyes wide as he took in the scale of the operation. I've seen the reports, but to witness it firsthand. Zephyr turned to greet them. Admiral Krovac, Dr. Vex, welcome to the Lunar Forge. I trust your journey was smooth. Lyra's tendrils waved in excitement. The portal technology is remarkable. Instantaneous travel between Earth and Arcturus Prime. It's revolutionary. And necessary, Krovac added, his tone serious. The ability to rapidly deploy forces across vast distances will be crucial in the coming conflict. Zephyr nodded, gesturing for them to join her at the Central Command Console. Indeed, we've been working on expanding the network. Soon, we'll be able to create stable portals large enough for capital ships to pass through. As they gathered around the console, holographic displays sprang to life, showing the full scope of the joint human-imperial war effort. Massive fleets were being assembled, each ship a fusion of the best technologies both civilizations had to offer. Research stations dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of the Void Devourers dotted the space lanes between star systems. It's unprecedented, Lyra marveled. Never in the history of the galaxy has there been cooperation on this scale. Krovac's expression was one of grim determination. Let's hope it's enough. Our long-range scouts have detected more incursions. The enemy is probing our defenses, testing our resolve. Zephyr's eyes hardened. Then we'll show them the full might of our combined strength. Dr. Chen, bring up the Hammer of Dawn project. A new hologram materialized, showing a massive construction effort taking place in the orbit of Jupiter. At its center was a device of mind-boggling proportions, a weapon that dwarfed even the largest Imperial dreadnoughts. By the Emperor's crown, Krovac breathed. What is that? The Hammer of Dawn, Zephyr explained. A weapon capable of channeling the power of a star. In theory, it could create a localized supernova, powerful enough to push back even the Void Devourers. Lyra's tendrils writhed in a mixture of awe and concern. The energy requirements for such a weapon, it's almost beyond comprehension. Almost, Dr. Chen interjected, her form solidifying as she joined the conversation. We're tapping into the fundamental forces of the universe itself. It's dangerous, yes, but these are desperate times. Krovac nodded slowly. Indeed they are. And speaking of desperate measures, there's something I need to share with you. He activated his own data pad, and a new image appeared alongside the others. It showed a being unlike anything Zephyr or Aria had seen before, a creature of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and pulsing. This, Krovac said gravely, is Project Prometheus. The Emperor has authorized the creation of a new type of soldier, one that can fight the Void Devourers on their own terms. Zephyr's eyes widened in understanding. You're talking about ascending, creating beings that exist beyond the constraints of physical form. Krovac nodded. Volunteers from both our civilizations, their consciousness transferred into energy states that can withstand the reality warping effects of the enemy. It's highly experimental, and the risks are enormous. Lyra finished for him. The ethical implications alone are staggering. A heavy silence fell over the group as they contemplated the lengths to which they were going to combat this threat. It was Aria who finally broke the silence. We're pushing the boundaries of science, of ethics, of what it means to be sentient, she said softly. But if we don't, if we fail to stop the Void Devourers, there won't be anyone left to judge our actions. Zephyr straightened, her posture radiating resolve. Then we press on. We'll use every tool at our disposal, every bit of knowledge and technology we can muster. The Hammer of Dawn, Project Prometheus, the reality anchors. They're all pieces of the puzzle. She looked at each of them in turn, her gaze intense. But our greatest strength isn't in our weapons or our technology. It's in our unity, in the diversity of thought and experience we bring to this fight. Humanity and the Empire, working as one. That's what will see us through this darkness. Krovac nodded, a newfound respect in his eyes. Well said, Admiral Starborn. Now, let's get to work. We have a galaxy to save. As the group dispersed to their various tasks, the lunar forge hummed with activity. In orbit above, the first wave of hybrid ships began to take form, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. Across the solar system and beyond, similar scenes played out as the combined might of humanity and the Galactic Empire prepared for the greatest conflict in cosmic history. In a quiet moment amidst the frenetic activity, Dr. Lyra Vex found herself staring out at the Earth, its blue-green surface a stark reminder of what they were fighting to protect. "Magnificent, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. She turned to see Admiral Starborn joining her at the viewport. Lyra nodded. "It's hard to believe that just a short time ago, we thought this world was dead. And now it stands as a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy," Zephyr finished, a reminder that even in the darkest times, life finds a way. Lyra's tendrils curled thoughtfully. "Admiral, do you think we can win this?" "Truly." Zephyr was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "I have to believe we can," she said finally. "Not just for humanity, not just for the Empire, but for all the worlds out there that don't even know the danger they're in. We're fighting for the very concept of life itself." She turned to Lyra, her eyes blazing with determination. "And that's a cause worth any sacrifice." As they stood there, looking out at the vast expanse of space, both women felt the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. The coming days would test them in ways they could scarcely imagine. But they also felt a glimmer of hope, a hope born from the unprecedented cooperation between their peoples, from the rapid advancements they were making, and from the indomitable spirit that had allowed both humanity and the Empire to reach for the stars. The Void Devourers were coming, their hunger insatiable, their power nearly incomprehensible. But arrayed against them was the combined might of two great civilizations, united in purpose and resolved to fight until the very end. As the first wave of hybrid ships launched from the lunar forge, their reality warping drives, leaving shimmering trails in the void, a new chapter in galactic history was about to unfold. The final battle for the fate of all life was approaching, and humanity and the Empire stood ready to meet it head-on. The triumph. The darkness at the edge of the galaxy pulsed and writhed, an incomprehensible mass of void that defied the very laws of physics. The Void Devourers had arrived in force, their hunger insatiable as they consumed entire star systems in their relentless advance. Arrayed against this cosmic horror was the combined might of humanity and the Galactic Empire. A fleet of unprecedented size and diversity filled the space before the oncoming darkness. Ships of every conceivable design, from sleek human vessels to the massive dreadnoughts of the Empire, stood as a final line of defense for all life in the galaxy. Aboard the flagship Eternal Phoenix, a hybrid vessel that represented the pinnacle of both human and imperial technology, stood the leaders of this last, desperate stand. Admiral Zephyr Starborn, her form now a shimmering blend of organic and energy states, gazed out at the assembled armada. Beside her, High Admiral Krovak's scales gleamed with a metallic sheen, a result of the cybernetic enhancements he had undergone to better interface with the new technologies. "All fleets report ready, Admirals," announced Dr. Aria Chen, her consciousness now fully integrated with the ship's systems. "The Reality Anchor network is operational, and the Hammer of Dawn is primed for firing." Zephyr nodded, her eyes never leaving the viewport. "And Project Prometheus?" "The ascended beings are in position," Krovak replied, his voice carrying a hint of static from his new form. "They're our wild card in this fight. Let's hope they're as effective as we theorized." As if in response to their preparations, the Void Devourers surged forward. The darkness seemed to stretch and distort, tendrils of non-existence reaching out towards the assembled fleet. "All ships, assume defensive formations," Zephyr commanded, her voice carried instantaneously across the vast distances by quantum communicators. "Reality anchors to full power." The space around the fleet shimmered as thousands of reality anchors activated simultaneously, creating a bubble of stable spacetime. The void tendrils recoiled as they hit this barrier. unable to immediately penetrate the reinforced fabric of reality. "It's working," Dr. Lyra Vex exclaimed from her station, her tendrils waving with excitement. "The anchors are holding." But their victory was short-lived. The void began to pulse, sending waves of anti-reality crashing against their defenses. Ships on the outer edges of the formation began to distort and twist as conflicting laws of physics tore at their hulls. "We can't hold this for long," Krovac growled. "We need to strike back." Zephyr's form crackled with energy as she made her decision. "Initiate attack pattern Omega. All ships, concentrate fire on the central mass. Dr. Chen, prepare the Hammer of Dawn for firing." The assembled armada sprang into action. Beams of energy in every spectrum imaginable lanced out towards the void, while swarms of fighter craft darted in and out of the chaos, their reality warping drives leaving trails of distorted space in their wake. For a moment, it seemed as though they might be pushing the darkness back. But then, with a surge that defied comprehension, the Void Devourers retaliated. Entire squadrons of ships simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if they had never been. "This isn't working," Lyra said, her voice tight with fear. "Conventional weapons are useless against them." Zephyr's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time for unconventional methods. Launch Project Prometheus." From the heart of the fleet, a new type of being emerged, neither fully organic nor purely energy. The volunteers of Project Prometheus streaked towards the void. As they approached, their forms began to shift and change, adapting to the chaotic environment created by the Void Devourers. "By the Emperor's crown," Krovac breathed. "They're actually entering the void." The ascended beings plunged into the darkness, and for a terrifying moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the void began to churn and roil, as if in pain. "They're disrupting the Devourers from within." Er's voice rang out, filled with hope. "This is our chance. Hammer of Dawn is fully charged and ready to fire." Zephyr hesitated for a split second, acutely aware that firing the weapon might destroy the Prometheus volunteers along with the enemy. But the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. "Fire the Hammer of Dawn," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the decision. At the edge of the solar system, the massive weapon came to life. Energy collected from the very heart of the sun coalesced into a beam of unimaginable power. It lanced across space, striking the writhing mass of void. The result was beyond anything they had anticipated. As the energy of a star met the nothingness of the void, reality itself seemed to scream. Space-time buckled and warped, creating a maelstrom of conflicting physical laws. "All ships, fall back," Krovac roared. "We can't withstand this level of spatial distortion." As the fleet retreated to a safe distance, they watched in awe as the battle between existence and non-existence played out before them. The void churned and thrashed, its tendrils lashing out wildly as it fought against the onslaught of pure stellar energy. And then, from within the chaos, new lights began to emerge. The Prometheus volunteers, changed beyond recognition, burst forth from the void. They pulsed with energy, each one a beacon of defiance against the encroaching darkness. "They've done it," Lyra whispered, her tendrils curling in wonder. They found a way to fight the Devourers on their own terms. The ascended beings spread out, each one becoming a focal point for reality itself. Where they passed, the laws of physics reasserted themselves, pushing back against the nothingness of the void. Zephyr's form crackled with renewed determination. "This is our moment. All ships, converge on the Prometheus beacons. Concentrate all fire on the weakening points in the void." The fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Hybrid ships unleashed salvos of reality-warping torpedoes, while Imperial dreadnoughts fired beams of exotic matter that tore holes in the fabric of space itself. Human vessels darted in and out of the chaos, their advanced AI pilots performing maneuvers that should have been impossible. Slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn. The Void Devourers, for the first time since they entered the galaxy, began to retreat. Their once unstoppable advance faltered in the face of the combined might of two civilizations united in purpose. "We're doing it," Krovac exclaimed, his usual stoicism giving way to exhilaration. "They're falling back." But victory was not yet assured. As the void retreated, it lashed out in one final desperate attack. A tendril of pure nothingness shot towards the eternal phoenix, aiming to erase the heart of the resistance. Time seemed to slow as the void tendril approached. Zephyr knew there was no time to evade, no defense against such an attack. In that moment, she closed her eyes, prepared to meet her end fighting for the galaxy she had sworn to protect. But the end never came. Zephyr opened her eyes to see a shimmering barrier of energy surrounding the ship. Before them floated one of the Prometheus beings, its form barely recognizable as something that had once been human or imperial. "Thank you," Zephyr breathed, though she knew the being could no longer hear her in any conventional sense. The Prometheus being pulsed once in acknowledgement before streaking back into the fray. Zephyr turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with renewed determination. "This is our moment," she declared. "Push them back. For the galaxy." The next hours were a blur of frantic action. The combined fleet pressed their advantage, driving the void devourers back step by hard-fought step. The hammer of dawn fired again and again, each blast tearing larger holes in the retreating darkness. And then, suddenly, it was over. With a final surge of energy from the Prometheus beings, the last of the void was pushed back beyond the galaxy's edge. A shockwave of pure reality washed over the fleet, restoring order to the chaos-torn space. For a moment, there was silence. Then, as the realization of what they had accomplished sank in, cheers erupted across every ship in the fleet. Humans and Imperials alike celebrated together, the divisions of the past forgotten in the joy of their shared triumph. On the bridge of the Eternal Phoenix, Zephyr allowed herself a moment of relief before turning to her companions. "Status report," she said, her voice hoarse from hours of giving commands. Aria's form solidified as she delivered the news. "The Void Devourers have been driven from the galaxy, Admiral. Long-range scans show no sign of their energy signature within our space." Lyra's tendrils waved in excitement. "We did it. We actually did it." Krovac nodded, a rare smile on his face. "Indeed we did, Doctor. But at what cost?" The jubilation on the bridge sobered as they considered the price of their victory. Countless lives had been lost, entire star systems lay in ruins, and the galaxy itself bore scars that would take millennia to heal. "We've won the war," Zephyr said solemnly, "but the real work is just beginning. We need to rebuild, to heal, and to prepare." "Prepare?" Lyra asked. "You think they'll return?" Zephyr's gaze turned to the viewport, to the stars beyond. "Perhaps not in our lifetimes, or even in 1,000 lifetimes. But they're out there. And now we know we're not alone in the universe. There may be other threats, other challenges we can't even imagine." She turned back to her companions, her expression resolute. "Which is why we need to stay united. Humanity and the Empire, working together not just in war, but in peace, exploring the universe, advancing our knowledge, and standing ready to defend life wherever it exists." Krovac straightened, his cybernetic enhancements gleaming. "The Emperor will agree, I'm sure of it. This victory has shown us what we can achieve together." As the fleet began the long journey home, the leaders of the Alliance knew that they were entering a new era. The galaxy had been forever changed by the conflict, but also by the unprecedented cooperation between two civilizations that had once been strangers. Months later, on a newly constructed space station orbiting the neutral ground of Alpha Centauri, representatives from every world in the galaxy gathered. Human and Imperial alike stood side by side as Emperor Zaxel and the leaders of Earth signed the Galactic Concordat, a treaty that would usher in a new age of unity and exploration. As Admiral Zephyr Starborn watched the proceedings, she felt a sense of hope that she had not dared to feel in a long time. The threat of the Void Devourers had brought them to the brink of annihilation, but it had also shown them the true strength that lay in their diversity, in their ability to come together in the face of impossible odds. The lost children of Earth had not only been found, they had become the catalyst for a transformation that would reshape the very foundations of galactic civilization. As Zephyr looked out at the sea of faces, human and alien alike, she knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, they would face them together. The darkness had been driven back, and in its place, a new light of unity shone across the stars.